Hello and welcome to our podcast, Beyond Cosmetic Treatments. I'm Chantal Coombs and I'm the owner of the Sugarbox Clinic. And today we've got Nicola from the
Hi.
Self-Worth Therapist. So, Nicola, you help help women to step into their confidence through therapy. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes. So my specialism is self-worth. So it's all about that inner confidence, which I think is where a lot of people struggle.
Yeah, you're right. Um, and one of the main reasons I suppose that I got you in is because I see lots of clients who come in and some are just, yeah, it's just something that bothers me. So, for example, if they've got a frown line, it's just something that bothers me. But
Mhm.
some clients come in and I can see they're hurting inside and I
Yeah.
don't want them to have a treatment. And so I think it's important that our clients know that we wouldn't just do a treatment for them just because they've
Yeah.
asked
Yeah. I think
and
that's
that I want to help them, but of course, it's not something that we offer. So, this is why we've got somebody like you today, so we
great.
can discuss how people can feel good and ready. So, I've got a question here. Let me go and find it. Why don't you share a little bit about your journey and what's inspired you to become a therapist?
Yeah. So basically, confidence is something I struggled with throughout my entire life, really. And it was when I got into my 30s and I was just feeling really unhappy and unfulfilled. And I was just, everything looked all right on paper, but like inside there was something missing. And that's when I started going to therapy myself and just unlocked a lot of things. And I think I learned so much and just started feeling good, like internally without all the external things. And that's what really led me on this journey. And I just knew I wanted to help other people to feel this as well. So that's sort of my journey with it.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, I think, and that's quite nice for people to know is that you've been in a similar situation, so you know how therapy can help change how you feel.
Yeah, I remember just, I was always very self critical. Like, even if I was accomplishing things well, just never felt good. And it was like I was always chasing the next thing. I'm someone who's had cosmetics as well, and I used to be obsessed with the gym, things like that, and all of these things I was doing, but they still weren't filling that gap. So I just knew there was
Yeah.
something there internally that needed to be worked on as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's going to resonate with lots of our clients as well. So, how do you define self-worth? Like, what's, because you're the self-worth therapist, how does that, how can clients understand what that means?
Yeah, so like I said at the start, it's that inner peace. So it's not about walking into a room and kind of owning it. It's being like quietly confident and just knowing like you're enough. Like it's liking yourself. It's self-worth. So it's knowing yourself and yeah, just feeling happy and content and at peace with who you are and not feeling the need to sort of prove your worth in any way. Just knowing that it exists and you are
Yeah.
just enough as you are.
So, like I was saying, lots of my clients seek cosmetic treatments, but how can they, how can they make sure they're in a good place before they seek treatment? So, um, I guess like some of my clients will come in maybe wanting let's just call the frown line, for example. How can they make sure that they're in the right place psychologically before they have a treatment?
Yeah, so I would always check in with, is this treatment coming from a place of I need this in order to feel good? Or is it
Mm,
coming from a place of desire and being in a good place already and thinking, oh, I know this is going to add to my life, but this is not something I need and it's not everything I need. Because think
yeah,
sometimes people can get into this kind of all or nothing thinking where it's like, oh, this is the thing, I'm going to put all into this and that's going to be the thing that makes me feel good. Where I think you need to make sure that, okay, that could be a piece of something that you want that'll add to your life, but if you're relying on that thing to kind of fix your problem, then I would say that's probably not a good way to go. So I'd probably check in with that and yeah, just check in with how you're speaking to yourself. How you feel about yourself in general. Is this a thing that you know actually will be good to you to add to your life whilst already having an already full life? Because it's great if people want to get cosmetics because they know that that's going to improve their life and that's fabulous. But if you're looking to that to be the sole thing, then it's often not the sole thing.
yeah,
Yeah, so looking at the bigger picture, like where is this coming from? And making sure you have all of those other pieces that add to your worth already, and it's not just that one thing that you're thinking is going to fix the
yeah.
problem.
And in fact, that actually reminds me of a client who begged me for treatment. And I said, I said, even if you paid me £10,000 for your treatment, I won't be doing it today. I'm really sorry. But she actually cried in reception for an hour after.
Yeah.
And it was so sad because she did put everything on to that treatment. So I mean, I already knew that that wasn't the right thing for her, but it's good
Mhm.
for clients to have a think. Is this something that I feel is the be all and end all, or is it just something,
Yeah.
like you said, that will just add value because they
Yeah.
feel all right
Yeah. 'Cause
beforehand?
I actually like got treatment when I was in probably not a great place. And obviously I look back at it now and I always have compassion for myself and say, I was learning, I didn't really know at this time, but I do look back at it now and think, okay, it did give me that short term like boost because I was like, oh great, like I feel great in the short term, but that
Mm.
lasted very short term and then I was back to square one again, like, oh okay, that wasn't the thing. Okay, what is the thing? So then I'd go on to the next thing. And I think, like I said, you have compassion for yourself. But if you can be at that
Yeah,
place first and make that decision first, then I guess you don't have to look back going, oh, actually, I wish I'd not done that. Because it's quite a big thing to change to your life, isn't it? Although, yes, I have compassion for myself at that time.
yeah,
But just realizing that, yes, it might give you that short term dopamine hit where you feel like, yes, this is great. But that often doesn't last long. And usually, if you've got like this big dopamine hit, it means the opposite is going to come eventually. So you're going to end up feeling disappointed eventually. So it's that contrast all or nothing, isn't it?
so how can clients start to cultivate that sense of self-worth beforehand or just generally?
Just generally. So there's a few tips that I think that really help with self-worth, and I think it's knowing yourself, so getting to know who you are actually on a deeper level, because I think a lot of the time people don't really know who they are and they are looking
Yeah,
for their self-worth in things externally to sort of describe who they are. A lot of people will attach their self-worth to their image, to a job title, things like that. And yes, those are things that add to our identity, but they are not all of us. So I'd say get to know all of the different aspects of you. That would be my first tip. I would say start checking in with your feelings as well. That can really improve
mm,
your self worth and actually advocating for yourself and your needs and how you feel. Because when we're hiding parts of ourselves, we'll often feel not good enough because we're not showing these parts. We'll feel more confident when we show who we are and how we feel. And that's accepted. We'll just generally feel more confident because you can never truly feel confident, I feel, if you're not actually showing who you are because you always feel like you're
yeah,
hiding yourself. So that's a big thing. I think just taking small moments to start prioritizing yourself and your needs, like in your day, even if that's like 5 minutes in the morning, having some time for you, little things like you can prioritize yourself in the day, like maybe between transitions, between going home and going to work, just having that time for you. Small acts of self care, taking your time with things, being intentional, just those little moments of
yeah.
mindfulness as well.
And I like that moments of
Yeah.
self-care because it's so easy to rush from task to task. Like
Yes.
Leanne, who's one of our beauty therapists in the clinic, I'll never forget when she said, "Oh yes, I'm gonna have a bath, I'm gonna shave my legs and moisturize my body." And I thought, I don't even do that. I don't even take the time to do that. And I
Yeah.
thought, that's great. She's really looking after herself and caring for herself.
Yeah.
And she's always a really good advocate actually in the clinic, saying, "Oh, you've got to put yourself first."
Yeah.
And I think there are little things that we can do
Yeah.
to do that, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's just those tiny moments, I think a lot of people think, oh, I need to have like a full self-care day, and it's not always big things like that. It's the little moments like when you're making
Mm.
a cup of tea that you just take a moment. When you're out for a walk, you just, listen to the birds and nature without listening to
Yeah,
a podcast all the time. It's those tiny little moments where you choose yourself and you say no and you set a boundary. It's when you're in the supermarket and instead of rushing to put all your shopping in that you say, no, I deserve to take this space. Like those little things that mean you're not constantly going, but you're taking care of you and what you need.
yeah, I love that. That's really nice. What about clients now who struggle with comparing themselves? I'll never forget when Instagram first became a thing.
Mm,
And one of my clients said, "Oh, it's really difficult. I need to have a treatment because it takes 20 goes to take a photo of myself.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, what is this? This is really weird. But of course, that's kind of almost normal now where people are taking multiple photos. So how can people stop comparing themselves?
Yeah, and I think this is a tricky one because I think, it's so rife at the minute, especially with social media. I think there's some things that we can do is usually when we are comparing ourselves, sometimes there's a part of that which thinks, "Ooh, do I want that?" So it could be looking at if you're comparing yourself to someone who, let's say, they're really confident and maybe you want to be more confident, you can kind of use that as inspiration to be like, "Ooh, maybe want to work on my confidence as well." So
Mhm.
sometimes it can be a thing that pulls us towards something that we want more. Like if you see someone with a great business, for example, and you're like, "Ooh, like." Oh, how come they have that? Sometimes that might be because you want to do that. But then there's other things which is like comparison in a negative way, and it could be like comparing someone's body. And if you know that's never attainable for you, and you know that actually, their page is because they don't work, they don't have kids, like that's their sole purpose is like working on their body. Like it's reminding yourself of those things of like, that's not real life. Then their life is not comparable to yours. You've got three kids and a full-time job. Like checking in with that as well and like looking at the reasons, going,
Yeah.
okay, you're comparing yourself, but you can't compare your lifestyles. And
Yes,
remember,
it's like comparing apples with pears. You can't do that, can
yeah,
you?
and just remembering that and going, have compassion for that and saying like, you know, these people that make everything look perfect, is it actually perfect? Like, you don't know anything about their backstory. Like, a lot of people who are putting themselves out on Instagram looking perfectly, they might be chasing that as well as a way to prove their worth. And behind the scenes, they might be incredibly unhappy as
Yeah.
well. So, just remembering as well that social media is not real life. Um, but always what I say, if a page is making you feel bad, just unfollow them. Like
Yeah.
it's
That's
such
what I
simple
say.
advice. Just unfollow a block because
Just
just check in
unfollow it.
with yourself. Like if you feel bad going on to someone's page, like that's a sign that that's not making you feel good. Yes, we can look at people for inspiration and things, but if it gets to the point where it's not inspiring you anymore, then yeah, check out.
Yeah. Like I love a really, really tidy house. And and it just doesn't say that way. But I love those posts where somebody will say, "Oh, this is what you see on Instagram," and then they on the next image, and it shows all the mess and all the stuff hidden in the cupboards. I'm like, yes. So their house doesn't look like that all the time.
Yeah, like perfection is not obtainable, and I think sometimes social media makes it look like it is, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it's funny because actually, skin is probably one of those, like lots of clients will say, "Oh, I know, but your skin looks amazing." But I've got foundation on. I've always got something on, just that little veil of covering,
Yeah,
hiding stuff. So I
yeah,
think that's the thing. Is clients
yeah.
have to remember that.
People wouldn't know that, would they? Yeah, people wouldn't know. Like, people might say, "Oh, you look really confident," but they wouldn't know I've been in therapy for 5 years. Like, it's like you don't know
Yeah.
what journey people have been through as well. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like, well, do you know, a good example today, everybody, is you might think that Nicola and we've got our shit together, but I'm sweating. I'm literally like stressed, got all my notes here, making
Yeah,
sure and this is our second take, we cut out the first bit.
I did because my dog was crying. Bless her.
Yeah, so, not everything is as it seems.
Yeah, I love that. I love
So,
that.
what are some simple, actionable steps that people can take today to kind of give themselves a sense of self-worth?
I think yeah, just maybe start checking in with yourself in the morning. Like, how am I feeling today? What would be good for me to do today? Because I think even just having those moments of realizing, like, how we are feeling can impact our day. And some days you might be feeling incredibly overwhelmed. And if you push yourself to do things when you're in that state, then you're going to feel bad when you don't. So just checking in with yourself in the morning,
Yeah.
thinking, how am I feeling today? Like, what do I need today? Like, what are some things that would make you feel better that day? Like, if I check in with myself in the morning and I do feel a bit overwhelmed, it's like, okay, I'm going to need a slow morning. I'm going to need to be kinder to myself today. I'm going to take myself out for a walk. I think another big thing as well is self compassion. I think if you can just notice, and sometimes it is hard to pick up on it, but if you can try and create a little bit more space in your day where you're more aware of your thoughts and just notice where you can be quite critical to yourself and start changing that inner voice a little bit and start speaking to yourself more like a friend, I think that can have a massive impact on your self-worth. And just,
Yes.
yeah, realizing like you are enough just as you are and you don't have to do all these other things to prove your worth. And if you're making yourself feel bad about it, notice what's happening there. Where's that coming from? Because often it's like it's more than external pressure from society, from parents, whatever. And yeah, just checking in with that and actually, being compassionate with yourself and realizing you're doing great already. Maybe celebrating
Yeah.
your wins more as well.
Oh, I love that one. I
Yeah.
love that one. Yeah, I really should shout about those a little bit more on Instagram because wins can be, it doesn't matter how small they are.
Hmm.
It feels really good then when you do celebrate those. Actually, something my brother and I have started doing. Oh, I've made my brother start doing with me. I said, Laura, right, we're just doing this thing. So we send a voice note back and forth, and we have a little gratitude in the morning, and
Yes.
then we say how amazing our day was
Hmm.
before it's happened.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
That's
I love
really funny.
gratitude as well because I feel like when you start noticing what you're grateful for, it kind of like sets you to think, oh, like things are good, and you start feeling good about
Yeah,
yourself. And sometimes I like to say to clients, in the morning, ask yourself like, who do I want to be today? Like, how do I want people to feel when they're around me today? And when it comes to the end of the day, what am I going to be celebrating? Like, how have I been today? And I think that's really nice to think, okay, like, just how do I want to feel today? Like, not all the things that I need to do, like, just how do I want to feel and impact the world
yeah.
today?
Because I was listening to a podcast and this lady was saying how we can be addicted to cortisol and just love having this negative self-talk, and then we almost like thrive off that. So it's trying to get into that new mindset. But with regards to self-talk, it's really interesting because my daughter will do that a lot, my youngest, and I'll say,
Mm.
"Well, you wouldn't talk to your friends like that." I know
Yeah.
you wouldn't talk to your friends like that. So it's important to talk to yourself as your friends would talk to you.
Definitely, yeah. And I think, honestly, like self-compassion is one of the most easiest things you can do once you've kind of learned how to do it. Because it does really like soothe your threat system. And your threat system is when you feel like you have to do things. And if you could just speak to yourself and kind of validate yourself and affirm to yourself, that can really soothe you. And yeah, just realize that this critical voice is often, the voice of society, maybe expectations of other people and their
Mm,
values, and think about, does this actually align with like what I want my life to be like? Sometimes we have that pressure to keep working more, for example, but actually, does that align with my values? Like, actually, I don't want to work 24/7 and I don't feel like I need to. And I'm happier when I'm not doing that because I get to spend more time for me and more time with the kids, whatever. Like, realizing that is often the expectations of other people and like learning to reassure yourself that you're doing what's best for you.
yeah, yeah, that's lovely. Right, let me have a little look at my other questions. So, if somebody's feeling stuck in a cycle of um, self-worth and they're, I guess, with that negative talk or that negative feelings, what would you advise them to do?
Yeah, I think
Is it kind of,
if you are stuck in that, it would be maybe looking at where that is coming from because there are things you can do like to help improve your self-worth day to day, like your routine, like maybe keeping a notes list of like all the nice things about you, all the positives. But if you've tried all those external things and you're looking after yourself, you're prioritizing yourself, and that self-doubt and is still coming through, I would recommend going to speak to someone about it because it could be quite deep rooted. I know for me, I
yeah,
was brought up with quite a critical parent, and that really impacted me because I always had that voice in my head. So actually getting to the root of that and healing that and noticing where it came from and kind of healing that part of me. Like I do a lot of inner child work, for example. That was like massive because sometimes it is a bit more deep rooted. And if you are struggling after, implementing all the little things in the present, it could be something in the past that needs kind of working through.
yeah. And I think that's it, isn't it? Like, I'm thinking of some of our clients who maybe have had cosmetic treatments, um, and then they can still feel really not great afterwards. But we can see that they're spiraling. I would always recommend that they go and see somebody because
Yeah.
sometimes they just do need additional help, because these things do spiral. So
Yeah.
if our listeners now wanted to get in touch with you, how could they go about finding you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at the self worth therapist, all one word. So that's probably the best way
Lovely.
to contact me at the minute. I'm currently in the process of getting my website up. I am on the counselling and therapy directories as well. If you look up Nicola Kemp, but it's probably easiest to find me on Instagram.
Right. So Nicola Kemp is available on at the Self-Worth Therapist on
Yeah,
Instagram. Great.
yes,
Okay.
that's me.
Amazing. Right. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. And I hope our clients can take on some of your tips so
Yeah,
that they can start to notice and realize what's, self-worth they do have and
yeah.
help themselves to feel a little bit more confident about themselves.
Definitely. And thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop into my DMs or send me an email. I'm always happy to help.
Oh, that's lovely. Right. Thanks, Nicola.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.